Sup guys, Chadlantis with another weekly rundown of all the vendor roles at the tower. This week we're going to be starting at Numarchy on the Hunter. The Auto Rifle Assembly 2 actually has pretty good roles for PvP with counterbalance and perfect balance alongside of high caliber rounds. High caliber rounds was nerfed for the high fire rate pulse rifles like Grass Malik and Clever Dragon, but still a really good option for the high rate of fire auto rifles because you're constantly streaming bullets into their face, which with the high caliber rounds flinch does affect them pretty substantially. And even if you can handle the stability of not using perfect balance and only the counterbalance, you can just switch perfect balance over to crowd control. It's lit. High mag size, crowd control, you'll get a kill within half a mag pretty easily, and then you'll just kill another guy within half a mag even easier. The Impeacher 5 again has a pretty solid role with the rangefinder, fitted stock, and high caliber rounds, but again is not really the best option for sidearms. In a very similar light, the first Citizen 9 actually has a really great role with persistence, very easy to land your shots with that. Feeding Frenzy, very fast reload speed, and extended mag, you can keep firing for a very long time before you have to eventually get that reload in anyway. Those are kind of perks that you look for in a light machine gun because you really want to be able to shoot a lot of bullets and reload very fast with good amount of stability to land all those bullets consistently. The only problem was with the low amount of impact of this weapon, despite the high rate of fire, it does take a long time to flinch enemy targets. So things like Minotaurs and stuff like that are just going to keep on laying down fire on you before you get them flinched, if ever. And you have to stand out there exposed for a very long time while streamlining the bullets. So it's very situational type of weapon to use out of the LMGs, the high mag count, high rate of fire, low impact. But if you know how to find those situations, then sure, this will work for you. It's just overall not the most optimal of LMGs to run. The type of LMG you want to go for is the Baron's Ambition. You could also go for the King's Fall light machine gun because that has that cocoon perk on, so you don't have to even worry about reloading. You just unload it and then switch weapons and then come back to it later and then you just unload again with more bullets, just raining bullets on the enemies. Also, the light machine gun from the Wrath of Machine Raid, fantastic choice because you just have that constant bullet chaining back into the mag. So the point is, you probably don't really want to look to a light machine gun in any of the vendors ever. Similar to how the fusion rifles you don't really want to look to because the Saladin's Vigil is always going to be a better option. For the Crucible shotguns, the Curtain Call has rangefinder, rifled barrel, has army of 1, which is great for shotguns because typically it's going to get an unassisted kill, and then smooth ballistics, which you don't really run aggressive ballistics on the Curtain Call because the range stat actually is beyond what the rifle barrel is. Matador, you can go rifle barrel aggressive ballistics because it caps out on your range. But you can actually go on farther range on current calls, so you probably would run smooth ballistics instead. The only problem is nerf to shotguns. Rangefinder actually makes it a very long time before you actually aim in down your sights. And rangefinder is definitely a PvP focused perk. You don't really care about rangefinder in PvE content. So pre-nerf, I definitely would suggest this, but unfortunately, it's probably not the best options now. The Event Horizon is actually a pretty solid role for PvE content with Hidden Hand, Triple Tap, or even Mulligan if you miss shots regularly. And you can run Casket Mag for even a higher mag size. It has Short Gaze, which is a really solid scope. The other two scopes are typically not considered to be good scopes. So if you need a good solar PvE sniper rifle, this is actually pretty good for you. In PvP, you probably would want to go with a Winged Word or the more commonly used Icebreaker in the current meta. And if you're looking to use a PvE sniper rifle, the Ex Machina from the Wrath of Machine Raid is probably your best option. It's got a crazy high impact and all that stuff just like Event Horizon, but you can reload to a higher mag size, etc. It's overall a really good choice. Mostly because it also has spray and play on top of going to the mag size of 4. But if you don't have the ability to get an Ex Machina, especially not a solar one, this is a great alternative. Most people love the Palindrome, so I'll go ahead and cover this specifically, though I don't suggest getting this. The Hidden Hand, Hammer Forged, Last Resort, True Sight, it doesn't have rifle barrel, therefore it's not a good roll. You want rifle barrel on your Palindrome, otherwise it's really not worth it. While we're running to the Dead Orbit vendor and Future War Cult and Vanguard Quartermaster, I'd like to welcome our friend Shadow. Just like in Peter Pan, he's going to be a guest host of this video today. Welcome aboard, buddy. Really though, a light bulb blew out. I'll be getting that fixed very soon. The closest weapon to Worth and the Dead Orbit vendor this week is the Extremophile 011, though I don't think it's going to be the best option for you. It has rangefinder, perfect balance, and then you probably would go snapshot on top of, you might want to go quick draw or something like that. Sight's kind of your preference, but the perks are pretty good. It's just not the best possible option you can go for in an auto rifle. So overall, not super worth, but it's okay. if you want to try something new. What is great at the Dead Orbit vendor this week is a perfect rolled Ghost. Discipline, Strength, Ghost, 35-35. That is perfect. Best stats you can get on a Ghost. So if you need a Discipline, Strength, perfect roll Ghost, Dead Orbit's got you this week. For the Vanguard Quartermaster, the Angel's Advocate is actually a fantastic roll this week, as the Firefly and Outlaw, which is things you really want on a PvE weapon, especially a scout rifle that's very precise on headshots. And you can run small bore and get away with it because of Outlaw. And if you don't want to use small bore, then you can just run explosive rounds. Might make headshots a little bit more wonky because the larger size bullets gives you like shoulder shots and stuff like that very commonly. But it's pretty cool seeing mini explosions hitting and then seeing a big explosion on Firefly if you do get the headshot. I personally would probably run Firefly small bore Outlaw just so I can guarantee get those precision shots more commonly. It's a similar thing to the Fatebringer from year 1, or now year 3 because Vaulted Glass just released, where I always ran explosive rounds with Firefly and always wondered why is it so hard to get headshots sometimes. Somebody advised me to switch over to a different perk away from explosive rounds, and I almost always got a Firefly perk headshot instead. So just keep that in mind if you want to get the Angel's Advocate. Great weapon, solid 2 different options here, gives you a little variety. Either way, it's going to be a good choice. And little mention, this is for a PvE role, not really what you look for PvP. This OCOM's Razor is actually a pretty fun PvE role. Definitely not what you want to go for PvP. However, it's a void element type, which is great for things like Minotaurs, like you'll find all the time in Vaulted Glass raid that just released today. It also has crowd control, the coveted rifle barrel, Battle Runner, which is one of my favorite perks, especially in PvE. And then you can run with the Accurized Ballistics. Pretty solid range and impact overall, with a fun, really fast movement style of Battle Runner. And crowd control so you do even more damage, just go on a spree of just killing a bunch of enemies. This will slay through Minotaurs and Vaulted Glass, which would be very convenient. And in general, it'll just be fun in things like strikes. The Wounded from the Future War Cult vendor is actually really solid. Extended mag for PvE, amazing because you can keep on shooting, less reload time. Triple tap, even more shooting, even less reload time. That's exactly what you're kind of looking for in PvE content. And then Zen Moment, once you land that first shot, it's going to be very easy to land up your additional shots, especially for something like a triple tap proc. So not looking to this for PvP, but for PvE content, whew, it's going to be great. What's super funny is sidearms are still really solid in the current meta. The king of legendary sidearms is the Wormwood, and the Future Roar Cult has Rangefinder, Zen Moment, and a choice between Snapshot and high caliber rounds. For a sidearm, those are great perks. Range is one of the biggest issues for sidearms. Once you get to that medium range distance, your damage starts falling off pretty heavily, and it takes a lot of ammo to kill somebody. Very long kill time. But with the rangefinder, that helps that out quite a bit. Zen Moment, as I just explained, very easy to get additional shots landed after that first shot hits. And Snapshot's nice for like suddenly getting aim on target on somebody, or high caliber rounds for a pretty high rate of fire weapon like the Wormwood or really any sidearm. High caliber rounds, steady stream of impacts on the face. They're going to be flinching all over the place. Very disorienting for the enemy person. Hard for them to land shots on you. And there's True Sight, which is one of the 2 most aim-assisted sights in the game, so it's even easier to land your shots on them. And now for the armor segment of the video, starting with the Hunters, the leg armor from the Future War Cult is 3 away from a perfect roll. 79-79 is the highest you can get on legs. This is 77-78. Nothing else is really close enough. For Dead Orbit, the arms are 2 away from perfect roll at 57-57. 58 is the highest. The only thing I will advise regarding this is shotgun reload speed is not something you want to look for in PvP. Once you pick up ammo eventually for a shotgun, it reloads instantly from the crates anyway. But for PvE content, reload speed for shotgun is actually pretty nice, so you can get these gauntlets for PvE. However, for PvP gauntlets, if that's what you're looking for, even though this is close to God roll on stats, I probably would go with a better reload speed, because that would probably be a higher value for me than a few stat numbers higher than my previous gauntlets. And the Cloak, Discipline, Strength, 2 numbers away from a God roll. Strength's a little bit lacking, Discipline's where we want it to be. For the Crucible vendor, the legs are actually very close, 78-78, 2 away from a perk roll, which is 79-79. I personally hate the Capture King perk because it only applies to Crucible matches involving control zones, and that's only when you capture a control zone. So in any other game type, it's completely useless, and in those control zone enabled game types, most of the time it's also going to be a useless perk. I'd rather go for something like Last Hope for like a Trials, which is crazy good if you're the last Guardian standing, or Second Wind for basically every other game type. Nevertheless, still fairly close to God roll. has sniper ammo boost or rocket launcher boost, which is nice for mostly like a PvE kind of situation. And all those other perks I talked about wouldn't apply to PvE anyway, so here you go. Cade 6 is treating us pretty well this week. Ghost is a perfect god roll intellect discipline, so between this and Dead Orbit, we have 2 of the 3 possible combinations of perfect roll ghosts. Intellect discipline here, discipline strength and Dead Orbit. Lit. Also, the gauntlets from Cade are so close to perfect roll. 58, 58 are the top you can get, so 58, 57, very close. Increased grenade throw distance, pretty nice. And then the auto rifle reload speed, that's one of the ones I would look for because primary reload speeds are pretty much always what you want to shoot for. Overall, I'd say these are very solid gauntlets and probably worth picking up. New Monarchy has some fairly close god rolls, but not really close. The leg armor is a 79, but then 75, so 4 away total from the god roll. 79 is the highest you can get on legs. For helmets, 65 is the highest you can get, so this is 4 away as well from a god roll. A little bit lacking on one side for both of these, but it's pretty close. Nothing else is really worth it. Now to the Warlock armor pieces for New Monarchy. The helmet is 1 number away from a perfect roll. 65 is the highest you can get for the stats, so 65, 64. Extremely close. It's got some PvE perks to it. Not very useful for PvP purposes. Also, the bond for Warlock is 1 number away from a perfect 35-35, so that's pretty worth picking up as well if you have nothing better. Back to the gear, nothing for Warlocks are worth it from the Crucible vendor this week. Maybe next week Shax will be nicer to us. But he's always been a little more biased for Titans, so we'll see if he has something for us then. The closest god roll we have from a core array this week is the chest piece, which is at 86, which is the highest you can get for strength, but the discipline's only at 82. That's 4 away from a perfect roll. Continuing the streak of kind of getting screwed this week in armor for Warlocks, the chest piece for Dead Orbit is quite possibly the worst I've ever seen for a chest piece. It's insane. 86 is the max, keep in mind, and these are 77, 78. That's insanely far off from a god roll. And nothing else is really worth it. Not even the ghost, except for, of course, the 35-35. And our last hope for something to be really of worth for Warlocks this week, Future War Cult provides us a bond that's 1 number off from a perfect roll. 35 is the highest you can get, so for strength, we're in there. For discipline, only 1 away, so if you have nothing else better, go ahead and pick up this bond. Nothing else is really close enough to a perfect roll. For Titans at the Future War Cult, not even close to god rolls. Fairly disappointing. Closest we got is a mark that's 3 away from a perfect roll, but honestly, that's probably not even worth picking up specifically. I'd rather save my legendary marks and pick that one up. For the Dead Orbit for Titans, I lied, apparently, for the last one, the Warlock chest piece. The Titan one is 1 number even worse, at 76, 78. Oh god, this is looking pretty grim for armor pieces this week over all vendors. Hunters had a pretty good option spread out for them. Warlocks kind of got screwed. Titans are not looking good so far. The Shax chest piece is also terrible, just as far away from god roll as the Dead Orbit one. But for the gauntlets for Titans, Shax is coming in pretty hot. 58, 56, that's 2 away from perfect roll. 58 is the highest you get for each of the stats. Grenade throw distance is very nice, especially if you're running like stickies. Lightning grenades are very nice for that as well. It's like a freaking bullet. Exactly where you aim is typically where the lightning grenade actually goes thrown. So really easy to land on walls far away, etc. And then sidearm reload speed, you know, sidearm's kind of the meta. It's actually a pretty good gauntlets overall. If there's going to be any special reload speed that I would actually look for, it would be sidearms. Closest we got to a god roll for the Vanguard, Zavala, is the leg pieces for the Titans. 78, 77, that's 3 away total from a perfect god roll, which is 79, the highest. Sniper ammo is pretty nice for PvE content. And the fact that there's no agility boosting perk at all is actually really good for Titans, because agility actually makes you slower on Titan skating. You want to stay low to the ground while you're skating so you can keep touching the floor on the feet, resetting your boosts. So it's good to stay away from that agility boost. Also, one thing to note is the ghost shells vary from Vanguard to Vanguard. So while the faction vendors of Dead Orbit, New Monarchy, and Future War Cult stay the same, as well as the Crucible vendor, because that's universal as well, no matter what class you play as, it's always going to be the same for those characters. But for the Vanguards, it changes per your class, because each of the Vanguard vendors are considered new vendors, and they have their own set of ghost shell rotations. With that said, Ikora and Zavala did not have perfect rolls, but Cade 6 did at the intellect discipline. Dead Orbit does for discipline strength. Zavala is actually close for perfect roll onto intellect strength, which is the 3rd of the 3 rotations that we needed. 34-35, very close. So if you already picked up the Intellect Discipline Ghost, you already picked up the Discipline Strength Ghost for this week, you need an Intellect Strength Ghost, Zavala's got you almost there. So until you have something better, Zavala's got you. And finally, for this week, the Titans at the New Marquee are pretty screwed on overall gear values. However, the mark is a perfect 35-35 on the Discipline Strength. Definitely pick that up if you don't have a perfect God roll Discipline Strength Titan mark yet. You have it in New Marquee. For reference, here's the list of emblems and shaders that Eva Levante is offering us this week. Here's the Ultimate Bad Guys offerings for this week as well. And here are the engrams offered by the Towers Cryptarch. Here are the engrams provided by the Reefs Cryptarch. And I'm very happy that there is a primary legendary engram available because last week there wasn't one at all. Finally, I can use all these legendary marks. I was capped at 200. Do I get a palindrome? I don't. I get the Continental, which, as I explained before, is not really the best option for weapons for PvP. Can be fun in PvE. This has Spray and Play and Perfect Balance and Glass Half Full, which are all things that would be cool in PvE. So I probably will try this out. That's actually kind of exciting. However, it probably won't overall be the most optimal options to run with. And finally, for reference, these are the engrams provided by the Iron Temples Cryptarch. Of the Iron Lord artifacts, the Memory of Fellwinter is pretty cool to use, especially as a Night Stalker in PvP. Otherwise, not a big deal. And Memory of Teamer is a little trolling, not really worth it. Memory of Perun, not really worth it either. Just being observant counteracts everything that Perun offers you. And Teamer is trolling in PvE, not worth it at all in PvP, not optimal in PvE. So I would pick up Fellwinter if you like being a Night Stalker. It works pretty well on Blade Dancers as well, but other subclasses, your super is a very useful commodity. You probably don't want to run Fellwinter. Unless you want to be a scumbag doing the glitch for self-resing, in which case you can go for that, but then you're a scumbag. We have a Crucible package. Let's see what it is. Will it be a palindrome? It's a Lord High Fixer. Oh boy. Let's see what it has. Spray and Play, Grenadier, Rifled Barrel. Honestly, that's okay for PvP. True Sight is a nice sight to use. Grenadier is pretty convenient all the times, but not really the best perk you can go for. Rifle Barrel is the staple. You need that in pretty much every primary for PvP. For PvE, if you don't want to run Rifle Barrel, you can run Explosive Rounds. That's cool too. Spray and Play is very nice for PvE content because you unload your mag like all the time. But for PvP, you typically reload before your mag's empty, so that's not very useful either. Overall, probably won't be using a Lord High Fixer for PvP at all, but for PvE, it might be pretty fun actually. And that's it for this week's vendor rundown for the towers. Hopefully you enjoy this, hopefully help you in some way. Thank you so much for being you, and thank you as always for watching. Adios.
Dead orbit.